Welcome to VyCast, where we bring a blend of knowledge, expertise, and fun to the world of finance. Stay tuned for our exciting episode packed with insights and practical tips that will help you achieve your financial goals. Welcome to VyCast, the podcast where we do good and help you bank better. Today, we're tackling a topic that impacts nearly every financial decision you make: insurance. From auto and home to life and specialty coverage, there are hidden gaps that could cost you big if you are not prepared. So our goal is to make sure you know what you don't know. And joining us today is Tamara Renard, Senior Vice President, VyStar Insurance Agency. Welcome back to VyCast.
Thank you, Charlene. It's great to be back.
We always learn so much. It really is. You teach us what we don't know.
Yeah, insurance is a really interesting topic.
It is, and you very much make it interesting. So here's where we're going to start this, because studies show that around 60% of U.S. households, 60%, are underinsured across one or more coverage, right? So that means we're talking home, auto, life insurance. So if 60% are underinsured, let's talk about what are some of the most common gaps that tend to catch people off guard.
Yeah, that is a sobering reality. Many U.S. households are underinsured, and the real danger is that they don't find that out until it's time for a claim. Let's take homeowners insurance, for example. A lot of people are unaware that the standard homeowners policy does not cover some natural disasters such as flood or earthquakes. Those are covered on a separate policy. And so people may find themselves in a claim situation where they're not insured or underinsured, and they don't have that knowledge up front. Another thing we see with auto insurance is that people elect to get the state minimum coverages. And those amounts just don't cover the true costs of vehicle repairs or medical bills. So again, another situation where people may become financially vulnerable. And then we think about life insurance. A lot of folks think that their coverage through their employer is enough. And oftentimes that is only a fraction of their income, and it will leave their families vulnerable. And so underinsurance is really not about not having coverage. It's about not having coverage that covers real life risk. And that's why it's important to meet with your agent on an annual basis, discuss your coverages, understand your policy, know what is covered, what isn't covered, and have conversations about additional coverages or endorsements that could help secure your financial future.
That's such great advice, because that when you are in the middle of a crisis,
yes,
your house, something has happened to your house, or something has happened to your car, something has happened to you, that is not the time you want to find out that you are
absolutely isn't.
Just adds to the stress.
Yeah.
All right, now, a lot of times people end up underinsured because they shop by cost, right?
Yes.
They want to get the lowest premium, but that can also come with, like you said, some surprises, right? When you have to end up shelling out more money. So let's talk about the hidden costs of choosing a cheaper policy.
You're right. Price tends to be a major driver for people when selecting insurance coverage. And there is a trade-off. Lower premiums often mean less coverage. And what we see is one of the biggest trade-offs is people elect to have higher deductibles. And what that means is at a time of a loss, then your out-of-pocket expense is significantly higher before your policy kicks in. And if you're not prepared for that, it could put you in a really bad situation. So sometimes the lower monthly premiums, the trade-off isn't worth it at the time of a claim. What we also see as a big trade-off is folks electing lower limit coverages. And as I mentioned before, oftentimes those coverages don't cover the true costs of repairs or medical bills. So again, leaving you with gaps in your coverage. And then finally, there are add-ons such as rental car reimbursement or roadside assistance that people don't think to add to their policy. And then now that becomes an additional out-of-pocket expense. So the reality is, though it may feel good in the beginning to have lower premiums, at the end of the day, your out-of-pocket expense could become significantly more. And so you don't want to just look at price when shopping for insurance. You want to be sure that you're getting the right policy that covers your needs.
I know this is small. I have pet insurance,
Yes.
right? But if you have a pet through the course of their life, their medical bills can certainly
add up, especially if you
Absolutely.
have two pets. And so I have a new pet now, and I got the low premiums, and it's been an entire year of pet care, and the coverage hasn't kicked in once because I got the lower pay, at the time, the premiums. And so now I'm like, it's been a whole year, and I haven't got, and now we start another year.
Yes.
Because then the year starts all over
Absolutely.
again. So I made a note to myself, I've got to take another look at that insurance policy. I know it's small, but it's an example of how you can end up at the end of the year and be like, wow, I thought I was saving money, but I really wasn't at the end.
That's a great example.
Especially when I had two dogs who definitely hit that,
Yeah.
that threshold. All right, so let's talk a little bit about storms, right?
Yes.
We live in Florida. We got really lucky this last hurricane season, but we know all too well we could get flash flooding. There's natural disasters out there that you see it all over the country. So how can homeowners make sure that they are truly protected? Because you mentioned sometimes you have to get that extra rider to make sure you're covered against those things.
Yes. Well, storms are becoming more frequent
Sure.
and much more severe. And it is really important to understand what your policy covers and what it does not cover. And the example I shared with you earlier is policyholders not understanding that certain coverages require a separate policy, such as flood and also earthquake. The other thing that we need to look at in terms of homeowners is your personal property. Is it covered at actual cash value? Or is it covered at replacement cost? Because there is a significant difference.
Yes, break that difference down. That's very important.
Very important. So replacement cost ensures that you can replace and rebill at today's price, whereas actual cash value accounts for depreciation. And so if your policy is actual cash value, then you're going to get a lesser payout than if it were replacement cost. So it's important to know what's on your homeowner's policy.
Give us the TV example. We were talking before the show. Give us the TV example.
Yeah. So you purchased a TV 5 years ago, LG something.
Best of the best.
The
when
best
you bought
of the
it, right?
best.
Best of the best.
And then you have a loss, and your TV needs to be replaced. If you have actual cash value, if that TV cost you $1,500 5 years ago, there's going to be a 5-year depreciation on that TV. And so you may end up with, I don't know, $200-$300
you can't give it away on Swip Swap.
Exactly. As opposed to if you have replacement costs, it's going to be replaced at what a similar unit would cost in today's world. And that may be $2,000, $2,500. That's the payout you will receive when you have replacement costs on your policy. So it's really important to ensure what you have, and so you have no surprises at the time of a loss. The other thing that's important with homeowners is making sure that your policy keeps pace with construction price.
So important.
Very important.
Very expensive right now.
Yes. And so that's why sitting with an agent and making sure you look at the property, reevaluate the value of the property so that we can be sure that it's insured at the right price. And then the other piece of that is your valuables, such as your jewelry, or if you have artwork or even business equipment in your home. Does your policy cover that fully? And so having homeowners insurance is also ensuring that you have the right policy for you, the policy that meets your needs and your household needs, because it's different for everyone.
And when you mean like your home office, you mean like your printer and your computer and your scanner or anything else you have in there, your little lights so that you look good on a Zoom, all that stuff. It's important to detail all of that.
And that can be covered, but it may require an endorsement.
You always give me so much to think about. I'm like, I don't know if my copier at home is covered. All right, let's talk about life insurance.
Yes.
Because life insurance is one of those things that most of us think, well, we don't need about, we don't think about it till we need it. Or, that is absolutely not the time to want to find out that a loved one was underinsured. But there's also some investment purposes to life insurance. So talk us through this.
Yeah. So life insurance is a really great product for any household. And it's one of those things that people really don't like talking about.
Because then it's talking about someone passing,
what
right?
if?
Something happened and we want to talk about that.
But the thing with life insurance is it's better to get your policy when you're younger and healthier, because then you can lock in lower premiums for the value that you want want to receive. And there is a huge misconception that your policy through your employer will cover everything. Those policies are often term policies, meaning that if you terminate with the organization for one reason or the other, so does the policy. It does not follow you. And so it's important to explore other options outside of what your employer offers you, because life insurance is not just about emergency. It's really about leaving a legacy. It's not just protecting, it's a protection mechanism for your family. If you have children that you want to help to provide college education for, or if there's a mortgage that you're leaving behind, the life insurance policy can help with that. And there are certain life insurance policies that do have an investment vehicle in it. So even if you don't have dependents, you can use a life insurance policy to secure your future and utilize it as an investment tool. So it is really important to take a look at the options that are available to you outside of your employer plan policy, and see what fits you and what fits the long-term needs of your family in the event something were to happen to you.
And you mentioned, having kids and, moving on to other jobs. So life happens, right?
Yes.
Life changes, things that we get new houses, right? We buy new TVs, all this kinds of stuff. So how often, because I think this is one of those things that people are like, oh, I have to sit down and renew my policy or look at my policy. And you really want people to look at this from a very different perspective.
Yes.
So how often and when should someone sit down and make sure they're sitting down with someone who can explain it like you can, right? No one should be telling you jargon and things and you're just like glazing over and not understanding what you're signing or what you're paying for.
I think it's important to sit with an agent at least once a year. Life happens. Things change, and it's important for your policy to evolve with you and your lifestyle. And the reality is, it's not just about looking at increasing your policy. There may be situations that happen that puts you in a position now where you're paying too much premium. And you would never know that unless you sit with the agent, ask the right questions, consider the different endorsements that there may be. Do I need to add it, or maybe I need to take it off now because I no longer have the home office? So sitting with an agent once a year is really going to be very helpful for you to review the needs of your household so that the agent can help you determine what's right and what's best for you at that time in your life.
And we mentioned, at the top of the show, what you don't know could cost you. Last time you sat down with us, and then you all did, our insurance agency did a webinar.
Yes.
I realized I was on a set it and forget it with my auto insurance, and I went back and I had your team look at my insurance policy, and I was paying way more than I should have been because I think I'd had this company for 10, 15 years, and they just sent me an annual renewal, and I said, okay, we're good to go. And so that you can save money on the upfront. So we're not just here talking about increase your insurance policy coverage and spend more. It's really look at it from both angles, kind of the before and the after the situation.
Yeah. And that's the great thing about the VyStar Insurance Agency. We look at the holistic picture within the household. We do serve both members and non-members, and our goal is to ensure that we provide great service, that people understand their policies, understand what they have, what they don't have, so that they don't find themselves in a situation where they have a loss and they're then at that time discovering that the TV isn't covered or it's not covered for enough. And so we meet with our members and non-members on an annual basis. We do a review, and in some cases, there are options to increase your premium. And there are other cases where you might be overinsured and we remove things that might lower your premium.
Because some other folks might just want to sell,
Yes.
right? So, but we're a credit union, members first. So our goal is to make sure that members are taken care of and we make the best help them make the best financial decisions possible for them.
Absolutely. And we do that through educating and making sure they understand what their policy holds.
And how do they get a hold of you and your team?
They can contact us by going to the VyStar Credit Union website, clicking on the Insure button, and they can send a request for a quote or a policy review, and one of our team members will reach out to them and go through the process of ensuring they understand the needs of their household, and then offering products and services that fit that particular household.
Or just click on the QR code that's at the bottom of the screen.
Yes, they can.
Well, Tamara, thank you so much for being here. Really, you make it so interesting and so helpful and understandable, and you really break it down so it doesn't seem so, oh, I got to get this done. It sounds interesting. Like, where can I find this opportunity to make sure I'm covered, and where can I find opportunities to save money?
We are here to provide them with a great service to help them understand their policies better.
All right. Great to see you again.
Thank you, Shirley. Great to see you.
Thank you. Well, if you'd like to make sure your coverage still fits your life, connect with VyStar Insurance Agency for a free policy review. Click on Insure and get a quote on vystarcu.org on our webpage. They'll help you find the right protection and avoid costly gaps. And of course, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of VyCast. Please sure to subscribe to VyCast wherever you get your podcast so you don't miss an episode. You can also follow us on Facebook at VyStarCU, Instagram and YouTube at VyStar Credit Union to give us your thoughts on a topic you would like us to cover, do a more deep dive on. We appreciate you joining us, and we look forward to talking with you next time.